Well, good morning, YouTube subscribers. Got a little project we're going to work on today. We're going to build a shop table, and we're going to build the framework out of some steel, and we're going to top it off with some 2x material, and then probably put a smooth masonite or finish or something like that on the top to make it a nice smooth workbench. So I'll kind of show you what the plan is here. Right over here, under these cabinets, and clear over to there, we've got a bunch of wasted space. And need something to hide all the junk that's here. Table saw, anvil, vacuum cleaner, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a table that's going to come from right here. Going to go over to this area. It's going to be 11 feet over to this area, and deep enough to come out here and completely cover this table saw. So that's kind of an overview of the project. And the other thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put square tube legs and 2.5 inch on the uppers and 2 inch on the lowers so I can adjust the height of it. And the reason I want to do that is I've got to adjust it up so that it fits over the top of the table saw, and that's roughly 40 inches or so. And then I want it to come down to a level such that I can use it as an off feed onto my table saw or match up fairly close with this bench here, which is 36. And then also I want to be able to drop it all the way down to about a 30-inch level, which is the height of a normal table, so I can use my benchtop tools on it. So that's kind of the idea. And while they're not precision, these are kind of the drawings and sketches that I've used to come up with it, and the various things here. So I've kind of got it drawn out, at least, and a lot of it's in my head. And this was my initial steel list, which I went and picked up the steel this morning. I was going to use all 1/4 inch angle, tube, etc. And the steel yard didn't have enough 1.25 by 1/4 angle iron. So I decided to make a little bit of a shift and go to 3/16, which I think will still be fine. So over here, I've got all the steel laid out that I just picked up from the steel warehouse. So the next thing to do is to go ahead and begin cutting the pieces to length. So I think we're ready to get started. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to cut the web out of this angle iron right there so that it'll fit right in with the ones that are down there on the floor, because we're not going to miter them. We're just going to take this little bit of material out here and then butt them right to it and then weld it up. So for that, we're going to go ahead and use our new Swag Portaband table. So we got those cut out. We'll go ahead and dress those up with a grinder a little bit and put them down to see how they fit. Okay, I've got the basic frame. That's the top frame in which the 2x material will rest. Okay, what I'm doing now, I'm cutting a few more cross pieces. They're going to go across the way, then to which we'll secure the 2x material with these and what I've already got on there. So we got to cut 2 more. Okay, there's the top part, the frame with all the cross pieces welded in. Be honest, it's not the greatest welding job, but and I'm going to have to grind these off because this is where these 2x material is going to fit in here. So that's what I'm doing now, and then we'll turn it over, and then we'll weld the legs on, or cut the legs first, and we'll weld them on, and we're going to weld the legs into these pieces right here under the bottom, and that's why I've got those pretty much welded all the way around. Okay, we got all of our legs cut. So these will get welded right there or somewhere close to that. And these pieces will telescope inside there, and I'll drill these so there's a pin that'll hold them in a few different positions. And then I cut these plates right here that the casters will bolt up to, and these we'll weld those on there like that. The casters will bolt up to here, and we'll get this all drilled and welded before we attach it to the table. Okay, our next step here is we're going to clean these little plates up. This is 1/4 inch stuff that I actually happen to have laying around, and I had exactly enough to cut 4 plates for these casters. So this is what it's going to look like. We're going to clean these up a little bit, round off the corners so we don't, and then we'll center punch these and drill the holes on all 4 of them. One thing nice about this big steel bench is you don't have any bounce or ping when you're center punching something like this. Okay, take those over to the drill press and drill them out 3/8. This drill press doesn't have a clamp on it or a vise, so I'd like to use a pair of vice grips to keep these things from spinning around and get a little dicey. So here we go. I use this Cat 3-2 cutting fluid. I've got a little bottle like this. It doesn't take much, seems to work just fine. And it says it's environmentally friendly, whatever that means. Okay, we've got all of our caster plates cut. Now we're going to go getting ready to drill the legs and the extensions so we can adjust it. Okay, so we're getting ready to do the layout and start drilling the hole, marking and then drilling the holes for these leg extensions, for the legs and the extensions that slide into them to give us the right height. And right here are my calculations. I got 3 different levels. One's going to be 41 3/4 to the top of the table, and the top's going to be 1 3/4 thick. That remains, there's 40 left. From the bottom of the caster to the top of the 1/4 inch plate is 5 1/8 inches. So that means I've got to have 34 7/8 inches. The next level is going to be 37, which is just about 1/4 inch below my table saw top. I'll go through the same calculations, so I know I've got to have a hole at 30 1/8. And then I'm not going to do a hole for the bottom because it's going to come out at 30 inches. So now what I'm going to do is gone over here and I've measured up 5 inches. So I've drilled a 1/4 inch hole all the way through in each of these legs. And now the extensions that are going to slide in here, I'll be able to adjust those out to the proper length, and I can then center punch it just like that. I'm also going to mark each of these just so I can keep track of them and keep them as a match set, so to speak. I think that'll make it a little easier to fit up. Okay, take one side here, and for those naysayers out there, I actually did check my math on a calculator, and my math works, so that makes me happy. So 34 7/8. Now go to 30 1/8. 1/8. There. So that's ready to drill. And we'll go ahead and do the rest of these. Okay, we've got all these drilled up to 1/2 inch. Got the holes adjusted. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and tack these caster plates onto the extension legs, and we'll be ready to, we'll just tack them on there, and then when to get everything ready, we'll start welding it all up together.
kidney injuries, and capillary.
So there, we've got all 4 of our caster plates welded or tacked onto the leg extensions. Now we're going to go ahead and put the legs on the table. We've got all the legs tacked on, and what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little cleanup, put away some tools, they'll pick up a little bit, and then we're just kind of in for a lot of welding to kind of finish this up. So we'll get after that. All right, we've got everything pretty much welded up. I take a wire wheel and go over it all on the bottom side. Right now we're going to go ahead and put all the casters on. Okay, we're going to say we're through with this stage right now. Got all the legs welded up. You guys out there, you're probably not going to like these welds, but in the interest of full disclosure, I'm not an advanced welder. I'm learning, and this is a great project to learn to run some beads on, and you can see some of them there. Certainly aren't the best, but I was getting better as time went on. So I took some 1/2-inch bolts, cut the threaded part off, drilled a hole in the middle or in the end of it here, tapered them a little bit, put these cotter pins in to hold it, got my casters bolted up. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over, and then I'll be able to clean up, and then the next stage of this work will be to probably put a coat of paint on it before we put the top on it. We're getting ready to put the top together, and what we're going to use is we've got 3 2x12s and a 2x10. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to square up these edges on all of them. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make about a 1/2-inch dado in here, probably 1.25 inches deep. And we're going to put splines, 1/2-inch plywood splines, through the full length of all of these and then glue them together. But I think this is going to work pretty well. So let's get started. We've got these all trimmed up. I might take a plane and just smooth it just a shade so that they fit good. I'll check them before we glue them up. Now we've got to get the router set up to start cutting the dados. Okay, we finished all of our dados on all of these. Now what I did is I marked these, before I started, I marked these boards 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I also marked the top. So put a little arrow on each of them. And when I dadoed these, I made sure that I ran the fence along the same side, that is the bottom side, every time I went through. Because sometimes if you're not perfectly in center, to be safe, I did all the dados from the back side. I ran the fence on the bottom side of each board so that they should all be the same when I go to put the splines in there. So now we're going to go ahead and cut some splines out of some 1/2-inch plywood. We've got our top all glued up here. You see some of the splines sticking out there. I used all of the scrap 1/2-inch plywood I could find around here, and had just enough. So rather than cut those. We'll cut them off when we clean up the edges and cut it to length. The glue's squirting out, squeezing out pretty good around in most of the places. Put them together dry and kind of lined them up. I did have to take a plane to one spot where it was a little bit out of whack. So next thing we got to do is let the glue set up and dry, and then we'll cut it to length and width, and should be good to go. Got the top on. I screwed it with 5/16 by 3/4 lag screws all around, and it snugged it down real good. So we painted it up, and now we're ready to flip it over. Got a few more things to do, but we'll flip it over here, and we're gonna call it good for now. There we go, call it a wrap. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Give me any comments you got, suggestions, love to get them, and I usually try to answer them. So take care, stay tuned for the next video.